The federal government says it's looking into why petrol prices remain high despite the recent drop in global oil prices. Responding to questions after the Federal Executive Council meeting, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy says regulators are in talks with marketers to prevent the exploitation of consumers, while ensuring that businesses can still operate. Also, Nigeria's Federal Executive Council has approved the biggest overhaul of the National Youth Service Corps since it was created more than 5 decades ago. The Council also approved major spending on roads, transportation, health, aviation, and small businesses. State House correspondent Adesua Omorwan reports.
The National Youth Service Corps is set for its biggest reform in 53 years. The changes aim to shift the scheme from national service alone to skills, jobs, and entrepreneurship.
We want to build an NYSC out of just mobilization of program. We are looking and working for the strong partnership for skill development, job creations, possibility, and national growth. The key reforms are stated clearly to put a call of details in digital way and a self-development core members for security and also attentions in special issues. These are prepared to even the structures of the reform of NYSC.
The reforms include a fully digital call-up process, safer deployment, upgraded orientation camps, and core members would receive career training.
One of the important things that we saw on which basis we decided to embark on this reform process is that there's a need for us to intervene to build the present ambition of a $1 trillion economy by repositioning NYSC as a civilian-led, skill-oriented, productivity-driven, and youth-empowering national institution. The one-year period remains. It is within the camp period that we're looking at. Depending on your stream that you pick will determine the period you remain in the NYSC camp or determine the period where you connect with the NYSC organization for them to provide you with the necessary training that speaks to your core.
The reforms are the outcome of a 15-month review involving the Youth and Education Ministries, the President's Policy Coordination Office, and the private sector. Council also approved upgrading the Snakebite Treatment Center in Gombe State into a national snakebite research and medical center. The Minister of Health says Nigeria records more than 40,000 snakebite cases annually.
The new center will provide comprehensive specialized care for snakebite and related envenomations, undertake research on snakebite epidemiology, prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, ensure sustainable access and supply of quality anti-snake venom, and have full clinical and medical departments for improving patient care and specialist services, among other things.
Infrastructure also featured prominently. Council approved 23 road projects across 10 states alongside additional funding for ongoing contracts and concessions on major federal highways.
The total cost of the project is 2.078 trillion. 23 projects in states of Adamawa, Taraba, Ebonyi, Kwara, Cross River, Kogi, Lagos, Niger, and Plateau states.
The Finance Minister says the Council approved new development financing for agriculture, power, roads, and small businesses, alongside further investment in the government's compressed natural gas transport program aimed at reducing the cost of transportation.
As many of you will recall, Mr. President had introduced initiatives on CNG buses, electric vehicles, CNG fuel tricycles, and conversion kits. Some of these investments had already been made based on anticipatory approval by Mr. President, given the urgency of those interventions, and Council today approved. So what that means is the remaining investment that needs to be made can now go ahead. The total amount is about 215 billion naira.
Established after the civil war in Nigeria,
to foster national unity among graduates. The National Youth Service Corps has been a rite of passage for generations of young Nigerians. However, the proposed reforms by the Federal Executive Council meeting here today still require amendments to the law before its implementation. From the Presidential Villa, Adesua Omoruan, Arise News.
Thank you, Adesua. Well, President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated newly rehabilitated and expanded roads from Karu Interchange to Customs Clinic Junction in Abuja, including other vital adjoining roads, saying his administration is not just laying asphalt, but injecting life back into the country's local economy. The president, who was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, said the road projects and other infrastructure were in fulfillment of his promise to resolve urban congestion and uplift the living standards of Nigerians. He stated that when he assumed office in 2023, his administration recognized that true development must reach where the people actually live, work, and commute.
Right. The Independent National Electoral Commission's portal access for the 2027 elections has sparked fresh power struggles within major political parties as rival factions and state chapters dispute control of candidate uploads and nomination lists ahead of the deadline. The Nyesom Wike-backed faction of the People's Democratic Party has commenced the upload of its candidates for the 2027 general elections to the Inec portal after receiving the Inec's access code. However, the Tamino Turaki SAN-led PDP factions has yet to receive the Inec access code. In other political stories, some angry members within the All Progressive Congress in Ondo State have staged a peaceful protest in Akure, rejecting what they described as an altered list of candidates released after the party's recent direct primaries. Also, a federal high court in Abuja has cleared the way for the registration of the All Democratic Alliance, ADA, under the leadership of Akin Ricketts. The judge ordered INEC to generate and release the party's access code within 72 hours. Lastly, on political stories, the People's Redemption Party, PRP, is facing a legal challenge over the eligibility of the 2027 presidential candidate, Donald Duke. A federal high court in Abuja has fixed July 7, 2026, to start a suit filed by aggrieved hopeful Yakubu Kingsley. Ayo?
All right, okay. Okay, let's go. Well, first of all, let me start on a very football note, because it's the World Cup season and there are a number of interesting, pulsating, matches yesterday. Of course, a few upsets, and what is the World Cup without the upsets? But I just wanted to start on that note before delving into the very serious stories before us.
The biggest upset is Germany losing to Paraguay.
Too early. I watched that match to the end and my heart was beating at every... I wanted Paraguay to win.
It was shocking.
Yeah, because sometimes we need
and
that
the first time Germany will lose in the knockout
at
the World Cup.
Exactly. And so, that's the exciting thing about football. This is football. Anything can happen, and that's why the World Cup is such an exciting sport. But I segued there, or I just digressed a little, because this is World Cup season, and I thought, what a match. And Morocco is through to the round of 16, so that's great for Africa.
First time Morocco will get to the round of 16.
Yes.
They are meeting Canada next. And
not the first time.
Well, round of 16,
They got to the semi-finals last year.
Well, but no, this time around, they've made history. And I imagine that they will beat Canada.
No, they got to the semi-finals.
Yes, they will. They are perhaps one of the best African teams in the World Cup. Okay, let me go to the news now. I just couldn't avoid that. That's big news this morning, of course, based on World Cup fever that's going on at the moment. But another fever that's caught up with us here in Nigeria, and that's going to have a huge impact, I dare say, is what has been termed as one of the biggest overhaul of the National Youth Service Corps. And of course, INEC releasing codes and where we are in terms of the political temperature of Nigeria currently, now that parties can upload the official candidate lists to the INEC hub. And of course, following that, a few controversies around the verification or the authenticity of the lists that have been, that is being passed around, APC would now have to face its demons, in quotes, with some of the misgivings of certain people as to who was really elected during the primaries and which candidate list ought to be uploaded. The PDP on its hand has its, well, shall I say, work cut out for it because of the factions. Who will have the access code, the Wike faction or the Tanimu Turaki faction in that regard? The NDC still has its, it has now filed a stay of execution, and and so we'll see whether or not their deregistration would stand. Time is ticking. Another thing, of course, is that Inec missed the deadline of Friday last week to release the codes. Is this a symptom of what is to come with regards to the preparedness, highlighting again the importance of releasing their funds on time to ensure that they are able to have a smooth run ahead of the 2027 elections? PRP, with its issues around its presidential candidate, whether or not Mr. Donald Duke would be able to run based on certain challenges of his candidature in the party. So a lot of things in that regard, and I'm sure that we've only just begun now that the codes have been officially released. But let me come to my big story, NYSC. You know, over 20 years ago, I was in the Literary and Debating Society, and one of the topics I remember that we debated on over 20 years ago was the usefulness of the National Youth Service Corps. Has it outlived its usefulness, or should it continue? I bring this personal anecdote to state how long we have been debating as a nation as to whether or not the NYSC Decree number 24 under the military rule has outlived its usefulness. In order to analyze this, I think it's important to understand the history, and Adesoa already touched on that with regards to it coming up following the Civil War and how it had fragmented Nigeria along ethnic, religious lines, and there was a lot of healing and to be done. And so there was a need for a focus around reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reconstitution. Therefore, the NYSC was created as a vehicle to promoting national unity and integration. And in fairness to the scheme, it had, to a very large extent, achieved that. A lot of people who have intermarried from different ethnic backgrounds or even religious backgrounds would probably tell you their story dates back to when they met in NYSC or when they were serving in NYSC. Some people's knowledge or interaction with other cultures different from theirs would possibly stem from their time in service during the NYSC. And so, in that regard, a lot of people, especially in the generations of, the 80s and 90s, would testify to how well the NYSC has served that purpose. But following that, with the spate of insecurity, the deplorable state of the camps, the corruption, with people being able to work their primary place of assignment to a suitable location based on who you know, a lot of things had already begun to mar the essence, the spirit of the NYSC. And so it is kudos to the Tinubu administration to have taken the big decision in the direction of what has been talked about for so long, and an overhaul, what is said to be perhaps the biggest disruption to the scheme since inception of 1973. What are some of the major changes that are being proposed? Don't forget that this is what was at the FEC meeting. It will still need legislature approval, an amendment to NYSC Act, and so this is still ongoing. However, some of the things that are exciting about the change. Number one is that this will now be civilian-led as opposed to military-led, even though there will be a military arm that would be responsible for providing security to the corpus. This addresses two things. Number one, it's more skill acquisition focused. It's more readiness for work for young people, and this speaks to the underemployment conversation that has been had about graduates in Nigeria, and so that's a great initiative. And then, of course, military being able to look after the students also speaks to the, some of the reluctance of corpers and their parents or guardians from releasing their wards because of the state of insecurity. So that is good. The digitization process, beyond it just making the process more efficient, it also means that they're able to map out danger zones and not send, graduates to those areas. Fantastic idea. And then new look, new uniform. We would now go more to more corporate looks and the like, more camp time, 3 weeks, from 3 weeks to 6 weeks in camp. And then the core part of it is that corpers will be able to choose from 11 specialized streams: technological and digital, I'll finish in 30 seconds, agricultural, medical, education, legal, public service, infrastructure, green, enterprise, creative economy, paramilitary, and security. Fantastic. And I mean, I'm sure we'd have a lot more conversation around that. My time is up, but a few things to dissect. But one thing I'll say to think about is the cost. How will this be funded? If camp is being extended from 3 weeks to 6 weeks, how are we going to fund this? And of course, the other initiatives. But I think great move in the right direction. A lot more conversation and feedback I would expect would come in the coming days, but good move.
Right, yeah, so good move, and kudos to the Tinubu government for this. I mean, this is something that we've been looking at. But anyway, if you look at how NYSC has been done in recent times, they've started to sort of like pivot to this entrepreneurial training, tech training, soft skill training, but this just makes it more holistic.
Yes.
So they have started doing some of these things, you know, but now they just put a structure to it. And kudos to, you know, the government and people that worked on it, people like Joe Abba, Dr. Joe Abba, baby boy for himself for life, you know. He did some work as regards this reform. What is this reform about? To be in tandem in modern reality. So you have more tech training, tech-heavy training, getting people ready for the marketplace, finance training, employability skill. You know, because these are things we've always looked at. So people get out of universities in Nigeria, but they're not ready for the workspace. In fact, recently, I mean, I don't mean to toot my horn, I had to partner with a tech company called Genza, where I had a portal where over 3,000 people were trained for employability training. And what are these employability skills? Things like using Microsoft Word. A lot of Nigerian graduates cannot use Microsoft Word, let alone PowerPoint, you know. And this is already in the day of AI, that AI has disrupted Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and everything. I mean, if you're getting some job and you're told to do a task and you're trying to use all these basic tools, they're looking at you, I mean, AI can do all of this. So we're already fighting a losing battle. So giving them this skill and getting them ready for the workplace is a good one. But they're already fighting a losing battle with AI because AI can develop more skill over time. And that's what I was talking about yesterday, that we should think more skill, not tokenism. And with this, it's going to help a lot. Yes, I also am excited about the fact that civilians can get to run it, so we can actually have, you know, measurable successes. I thought it was very military-esque in his outlook that time. I think it was a relic of the old military, you know, government gone by days that military officers didn't run it. No. So I'm really excited about this, but let's just see how it pans out, because the taste of the pudding is in the eating. And there should be, you know, more contributory angles to it. I mean, in all of that sector, I'm not sure they saw, they put in media. Is there? No,
media isn't there.
Is there media? I would like to come and
maybe under creative economy.
I would like to come and offer, you know, 1 or 2 courses in media and all of that, you know, come and speak to people in NYSC camps around me. I mean, it's something I would love to do, because this is another way to be able to give back and act as mentorship to the people. As regards the Federal Executive meeting where Minister Taiwo Oyedele went ahead to say that they finally gone against the IMF that said they shouldn't collect that 4.1 billion loan. They've collected, I think the story broke on Bloomberg, and he said that they've done it in a way that the interest is not going to pile up. We want to take his word for it and hope that the concerns those people raised does not come back to bite us. I'm talking about the international firms, your IMFs of this world that raise concerns about that Dubai loan. He says is to be able to do heavy lifting to pay off some of our loans. I mean, we're waiting on it. But another flip side to the question is, where are these so-called, this is our revenue that they say we are making, where are we plowing it to? I think these are the questions we should be able to ask. Because if we are saying we are making outstanding numbers in revenue, somebody will have at least thought that it should trickle down in budgeting for contractors, in budgeting for funding government contracts. All right? It's just some specific contracts that are largely funded. Cash backing for other contracts is pretty much problematic these days. We want to hear more clarity as regards that. And for the federal government raising concerns about the petrol price and everything, it's a deregulated market. I don't think they should even talk as regards that side. The regulators, FCCPC, have spoken. Like I said, if they see any anti-competition, FCCPC, they should not even issue a circular. They should go ahead and take these people to court. Also, their regulators, NMDPR, if they see any anti-competition or any price gouging, they should take them to court directly. But the government now saying that we want to look how price is going to go in already a deregulated market. Is it that we don't understand the meaning of the word deregulation? Let the regulators beam their searchlight on it. A federal high court has ruled that Ada should be given access code in 72 hours. The question I'm going to ask is, Dr. Abati, Ayo, please correct me. How is that going to happen? Did Ada do any party primaries for candidates to emerge that they are going to get an access code? I mean, there's a lot of things I want to do. And I will, as Inec, not finish studying the NDC court judgment. Because with the ADCO, they were so quick. In less than a couple of days, we had cases already in court, and the Court of Appeal had already ruled that that judgment was not fit. Why are we still dulling? Are they still studying it? Are they going to file a counter one as regards the registration? I mean, let us get clarity on these issues, because as far as I'm concerned, we are in the dark. You can call me nepios on these issues. Maybe I'm asking too much.
Time is ticking.
And time is ticking.
All right, Dr. Bating.
Okay, let me start with a concern about the fuel price. Now, when the U.S.-Iran war began, February 28, the immediate effect of it was that there is an energy crisis, or there was an energy crisis across the world because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which was responsible for about 20% of the supply of energy products, not just fuel, but also gas, electronics, for the rest of the world. So prices went up, and national economies found themselves in a very difficult situation. And starting with energy, we saw countries in Asia, some of those countries like Indonesia saying that people should stop using air conditioning, Pakistan saying that people should begin to wear short sleeves so that they can cope better with the heat. Kenya went and had a meeting with the government of Egypt to see how both countries can collaborate to face the energy crisis. In the US, in the UK, in Nigeria, across Africa, the pump price of fuel went up. However, in recent times, we've been having a start-stop, ceasefire and a 60-day extension to the middle of August. And on account of that, there has been a drop in the pump price of fuel globally, to the effect that Brent crude now is just about $73. WTI, that's the U.S. Western Intermediate, is just about $70.73 per barrel. So hovering either below $70 or slightly above it. So the leaders who have now been expressing concern, that some economists say that they say that we should watch out for what is called over-optimism. Because of the fragility of the ceasefire, the situation could change drastically. So the politicians need to deliver. In the United States, for example, where President Trump has been severely criticized, even by members of his own party, just this morning, or was it yesterday evening, he was telling retailers of fuel that they have to bring down the pump price of fuel immediately in capital letters, and that it should be around $2.50. At the moment, it's over $4 per gallon, as they say in the United States. Now, Nigeria, too, is saying the same thing. But I brought up the Trump case because Trump says, well, if they're not careful, taxation on the sale of fuel will be more than even the cost price. Two, he has asked for an investigation of retailers within the fuel section. Three, he has asked for increase in domestic production. Let me just stay there. There are other conditions that he has given. Compare that with Nigeria. FCCPC, the Consumer and Competition Protection Commission, said a few days ago that there will be sanctions. And I said on that occasion that, look, it is good, it may be populist, but government has to be seen to be protecting and defending the interests of the Nigerian people. And now we're told also that the Minister of Finance has also said government seeks fairer petrol prices. The whole objective is to prevent profiteering, because Nigeria is one country in the world where when things go up, they hardly ever come down. And in the downstream sector, there's, of course, a lot of opportunism. So regulation needs to be strengthened. But Trump says domestic production. Even if we want to do domestic production here, where are the government refineries? They're just sinking holes, places for structures for waste, leakage, and corruption. And now the government says the retailers. Okay, the people the Nigerian government is talking to, Dangote, who is the only person producing at scale, and then perhaps also the retailers. But I also made the point, and it's still relevant, about pricing mechanism. The people who are involved in the downstream sector and all of that, they will also look at the pricing mechanism because of the over-optimism that I say analysts have referred to. If they come down so drastically, and in any case, we're talking here about futures. The fact that it drops to $70 today does not mean that's the amount you will get your imported fuel or your production the next day. It will take time. The trickle-down effect will take time. But the Nigerian government is in order to ask for fairness and all of that. Now, NYSC, when it was created in 1973, the idea by the Gowon administration was within the context of rehabilitation, reconstruction, and moving the country forward and to promote unity. I think it is important that in the lifetime of General Yakubu Gowon, who is the father of the NYSC, nobody has said we are removing the idea of unity. People will still be posted around. Many Nigerians are insular. They are even worse in a place like Ibadan. You see somebody who went to primary school in Ibadan, went to secondary school there, went to university there, got a PhD there, got to everything in just one town. He doesn't know what is happening even in Lagos, that is nearby, or in Abeokuta. So the whole idea was to open up the country. But reform, I think it was Peter F. Drucker who said that, change is the only constant, and you have to continue to innovate, to deepen your options, either as business or even as a human being. What are they promoting? Entrepreneurship, they call it 11 streams. Entrepreneurship, digital technology, emphasis on STEM, and all of that within 6 weeks. Now, they cannot teach entrepreneurship in 6 weeks. I don't think that is the idea. In fact, it's the entire educational curriculum of Nigeria that has to be reviewed to put entrepreneurship training into how we produce our graduates. They say passing out parade will no longer talk about passing out parade. It will now be graduation. Yeah, I don't think that's a big deal. They want to change the uniform. I don't think that is even a big deal. It's about the more fundamental issue about promoting entrepreneurship. They say it to be civilian-led, skill-oriented. Yes, we are in a civilian dispensation, but, it's a good thing also that they are not scrapping it, as some people have suggested. But those of us who went to do the NYSC in the days of old, we will miss that uniform. Even if the uniform they give them now is of an inferior quality to the good quality vests and boots and, khaki attire that we used in our time. And in fact, we were well taken care of. Some of my colleagues, when I served in Edo State, in fact, married from that 200 naira. They even saved and bought television sets from that 200 naira. So, nostalgically, we are reminded of the fact that, yes, there was once a country. And finally, as for INEC has assured everyone that training is continuous for party representatives at the local level till July 11, when the window will close, for presidential and